Yeah, so we're gonna spend the next few minutes and talking a little bit about intelligent process automation, the topic that we could also refer to in the panel discussion earlier today, and we're gonna show you some live action on what we have implemented so far. Yeah, so just very briefly, there might be people who don't know Deutsche Post DHL. We are actually Europe's leading, postal service and probably one of the most global corporations out there, because we are in all countries and territories, more than 220. And we are doing air and ocean freight transportation services, and especially we are well known for our express network, which provides the time-definite delivery service, which is really a service offering that sees tremendous growth over recent years. And actually, we have a mission statement which is called "Connecting People, Improving Lives," and actually, that's a mission statement that could be also kind of valid for Bizagi, I guess. So we're gonna give you some context in terms of what we are actually doing, how are we set up, what is our program mission, so to say, in global business services, and then we're gonna talk about two topics that are going a little bit beyond pure process automation. One is, creating and enhancing the user experience, which is really important to me, because I believe the next generation of employees doesn't want to work anymore with SAP and these outdated UIs. So we gonna further invest into that. Also even bringing our blue-collar workers onto a digital process layer, and Timo is gonna show you how we have set up the infrastructure to make that happen. And then finally, going then into our use case where we demonstrate, an example of intelligent process automation. So, as already said in the panel discussion, we started in 2016 with a little proof of concept for robotic process automation. And afterwards, I was sitting together with the management of finance operations, and we thought, wow, this is a great technology with which we can really overcome the demographic change. Because what you have to understand is that our global business services still has a very strong footprint in Germany, and that's definitely due to the fact that we have been a former governmental or part of the government, and in 1998, we became a private stock company. And so, people gonna retire over next years, more and more people, and we had to do something about that. And luckily, that also allowed us to not only get the buy-in from the finance management, but even from the top management to fund the so-called Finance Operations Digital Transformation Program, which allowed us to create a center of excellence with 18 people already, because we really wanted to make an impact to the organization within a couple of years, and so we kicked off that program, and since then we really have industrialized that topic of process optimization and automation, and have run more than 15 projects in parallel all the time. And alongside that journey, as Elsa said, we have added more and more technologies over the years. And yeah, Bizagi was the technology that we selected last year to further facilitate and make it easier for us to set up, the collaboration between the human and digital workforce. And then this year, we actually had been carved out of the finance area and have moved onto the GBS level, so to say, and now doing these kind of projects across the entire global business services division for areas like finance, procurement, HR, legal, real estate, and that stuff. And that allowed us, again, we want to make an impact to now increase the size to up to 54 people. And by that, I assume this is one of the largest digitization or digitalization programs in Germany and probably even in Europe. And yeah, by end of this year, we likely go beyond 100 RPA implementations. And, there are many teams that are rather focusing on like specific task automations, but we are really talking about end-to-end process automation. So we have done by end of this year more than 100 of that. So I think quite tremendous work. And actually with Bizagi, as said, we have started, we have worked quite a lot on our infrastructure setup in the first months, but now already by year end, we're going to have more than 11 implementations completed, and next year are targeting to do another 30 to 40, maybe 50, depends on the process complexity. But I guess that shows a little bit the scale that we want to achieve. So with the entire program team, we are aiming for 25 plus projects that we want to run in parallel. Yeah, and hopefully that then really brings us by 2025 to a state where we can really say, we have made an impact to GBS and are talking really about a very modernized organization with state-of-the-art services. This is really what we are aiming for. And in terms of, like the technology vision that we have is that we want to move all our stakeholders, be it our human workforce, be it our internal customers or our external suppliers or customers and stakeholders, we all want to move them onto a digital process layer with Bizagi. Right now, typically people are still working on the ERP layer directly, so doing some transactional stuff in SAP. I mean, for that, it's clear that for these repetitive tasks, we are aiming for automating those. And this, I think, shows that Bizagi becomes also quite crucial for cooperations later on, because it really goes straight into the heart, into the backbone of our organization, and by that it becomes a key strategic software component for us. And this hopefully then really allows us to seamlessly connect all the stakeholders with our digital workforce to then really create not only an impact in terms of efficiency, but reducing heavily cycle times, for instance, and by that creating a new service experience. That's what we really want to achieve. And one additional aspect is definitely that we are collecting more data, more process data, and this is also very important to us, because by that we can not only further improve our business processes, with continuous improvement measurements, but in addition we can give those data to our business stakeholders, and hopefully that is something that they can leverage to further improve our core logistics service offering and creating better logistics services at the very end. And hopefully this is something that we not gonna establish, within our GBS division, but hopefully even beyond.
Thanks. Yeah, so besides the pure process automation, our program has a second strategic imperative, which is to increase and to improve the visibility of the GBS process portfolio. So we found ourselves exposed to a challenge, which is that the digital representation of GBS is inconsistent, simply. And that's due to what Stefan mentioned earlier, that our IT and enterprise architecture is homegrown over the time, right? So, and we believe that Bizagi Sites is pretty much the perfect answer to that. So we are looking forward to actually build a unified, single portal for our employees based on Bizagi Sites. And when we introduced that yesterday to Jesus, the CTO of Bizagi, I was very happy that he offered us to have a very, very close collaboration on that. Yeah. So I can say that event already paid off, because right after that meeting, we were introduced to the Bizagi product owner of Bizagi Sites, who is among us here at this event. So great. What you can see here on that screenshot is essentially what one of our colleagues came up with after she played around with Bizagi Sites for just a few hours. So I think that this is the way forward. We are going to implement that into essentially 2 stages. First one will be, as I said, mainly focus our internal employees. And I'm very happy that we are also going to have a second stage where we will expose that GBS portal to externals, essentially to our vendors. And that brings me to a feature, and I actually can refer to what Gustavo was saying earlier today. I raised a super urgent feature request to Bizagi, which is essentially what I'm going to talk about. And I got like 2 hours later, account management was reaching out to me, telling me that feature is already existing. I have to say, it was simply not so much prominent placed in the documentation, but it's great. It's already there, so awesome. And that feature is called SCIM. It's a system for cross-domain identity management, SCIM API. It's a standard, and that standard allows Azure Active Directory to push users directly into the workflow user system table of Bizagi, which is great. Because that allows us, and that's a perfect example of how Bizagi fits into a large enterprise environment, right? Because we use, at DPDHL, we have a tenant on Azure where we have our Active Directory. And we can use groups to manage our users and then have it pushed to Bizagi, as I was saying, which is on premises in our data center. And we are currently working on a reusable component which essentially does 4 things. It checks if the user is already existing. If not, it sends out an automated standardized email to that user inviting him to our Active Directory. And it also ensures multi-factor authentication. So as I was saying, and third step obviously pushed it into the WF user. So the interesting part here is that there's a feature called B2B invitation for that, which allows the John Does of this planet to use their own email address, their own identity to log into our vendor portal. So essentially what you maybe know from your own experience where you use Facebook or Google to log into a third-party application, which is fundamental to that user experience. Because imagine a vendor have to have like various user accounts for each customer portal or each vendor portal. That's not going to happen. So if you want to have a vendor portal like that way, you have to make it as easy as possible. And I'm very happy that we got features like that with Bizagi. Yeah. That brings us...
Before we move on,
Sure.
actually, I wanted to go back again to further emphasize, you know, the point of user experience, because this is, you know, I think we have a tremendous opportunity right now, because with our program, we want to likely go through all major business processes in our organization. And we now have this unique opportunity really, you know, to create not only a better process, but hopefully to really create a new way of working. We really want to go into, you know, user journeys to make our services more accessible, easier to find, because right now we, as Timo said, it's really inconsistent right now. And I think we now have really that unique opportunity in you know, creating that single portal where our customers, our internal customers and even externals can find our service offering. We often right now get the feedback that it's rather complex to deal with GBS, and I assume this is quite typical for a shared services organization. And there's still various email collaboration going on, and I think now, you know, we have that tremendous opportunity to really reshape the way of working.
Exactly. So happy you mentioned the email communication, because that's the problem, really. If you think of automation, like backend automation, you want to get the input structured in the first place. If you have emails, you don't have that. With attachments, Excel spreadsheets, let's not talk about that. So you need those forms all over your organization to get all of that information structured in the first place so that you can automate as much as possible along the business process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Coming to the end-to-end automation piece. Timo, run us through the technologies.
Yeah, so that's like our status quo, our automation technology stack. All of those automation technologies were mentioned earlier today, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But we place DPA, digital process automation, in the center, because this is where it belongs. Because we are using Bizagi for orchestrating all of those digital services along our automation process. Yeah, so and Stefan actually going to have a case study just after that slide, which is a perfect example of that. But what this slide also is about is about all of those technologies which haven't made it to the slide. Because, I mean, it reminds ourselves that, well, we need to remind ourselves that this is a status quo, which we always have to question. Yeah. So we are continuously also assessing the market, doing a lot of proof of concepts to identify a potential next, the automation technology, right? So I always wanted to say that on the stage, stay hungry, stay foolish. That's it.
Yeah, and actually that really demonstrates, you know, that we are talking about complementary technologies, because there's no, you know, RPA versus DPA or whatsoever. It's a combination of those technologies. And you know, I remember in 2016, actually quite funny. You know, many people were saying, you know, RPA is not really a technology. It's a, you know, temporary workaround, blah blah blah. But I really believe it's here to stay, because you can do some stuff really with that, you know, which would take you really quite some effort to achieve that with classical system integration. Obviously, we are also a fan of APIs. We are really pushing REST APIs in our group, but obviously still RPA is really a key technology for us. So how could that work? We going to show you the so-called duty billing process, and what you have to understand is we do lots of cross-border deliveries, and there are many countries where you still have to pay duties for a cross-border shipment, and obviously that has to be processed somewhere. And if you see our shipment volume, you recognize that this is really a highly transactional business process, and that was completely manual. And actually, I really love this project, I have to say, because I remember in 2016 when we went through our process framework and we're discussing like RPA potential, I was agreeing with the department heads and the process owners that it's not possible to automate with RPA. But luckily, 2 years later, we have now a bunch of technologies which really allowed us to automate that. And there are two versions of duties. One where the shipper has to pay afterwards, and one where the recipient has to pay the duties. And we have to charge them respectively. With DTP, we are live since a couple of months. We are running indeed 2,500 cases, Bizagi cases a day, because these are the number of shipments that we produce. And it's only Switzerland. So we are only talking now here about one country, and we are in discussions with the global process tower to really deploy it globally. And then, I mean, the volume is going to increase further. And then with DTU, fingers crossed, we're going to go live beginning of November. And what we have done is we have combined DPA with robotic process automation, with smart OCR, because quite some shipment files, so-called airway bills, are still scanned images in order really to achieve that automation ratio. And I was really surprised that we could achieve such a high ratio. I think we really rarely had such a ratio, yeah, the impact is significant. So how does that process work? Actually, we are starting in the very early morning, I think around about 6 a.m. The bot is scheduled to go into Oracle and find the list of shipments that had been done. And there's no API available for that particular function in Oracle. So the bot is, so we have programmed the bot who's going then into Oracle, getting those shipments, and actually for each shipment, it's firing a Bizagi case, a Bizagi process instance. And then for the respective shipment, we are retrieving from our document archive the shipment file. Often it's a digital file, so we can extract the information that we need with regular expressions. But if these are scanned images, then we're going to leverage AB Flexi Capture in that case in order to retrieve such information from the shipment file. And here we are talking, I think, about 90% of failure-free extraction. Yep. But when it comes, to the case that Abby isn't 100% sure that it got the right information, then it goes into a manual exception in Bizagi, and then some of the accounting clerks can pick that up and put in the right information. And then finally, Bizagi hands over back to a UiPath in order to do the final posting then in Oracle. Again, here we don't have an API, but it really works perfectly. So let's see if the video is working, and then hopefully you can see that. So as you can see, here's some screenshots as well from Power BI. So we have connected Power BI to Bizagi to create some nice dashboards for the process managers. And there you see like the flow chart. And now we are coming to the first part, UiPath, where it's now going into Oracle. That's one of our Oracle instances. And is then, here you have the list of shipments, is then taking those lists basically in the background, copying such information, and then splitting that list into single items and then creating those Bizagi instances.
Yeah, so that really is an unattended robot which runs in a data center in Prague, so there is no human involvement at all. Yeah, it's literally like a digital workforce, right? They have their own user account, they have their own workstation essentially. This is how it looks like.
Yeah, and then now in the second part, you see the orchestration layer, Bizagi, and that goes through the process. There you can't read it, but it called the global imaging archive in order to get the information. And then we're gonna leverage Abby, to retrieve the necessary information in case of a scanned image, and we are getting structured information back. And then finally, we are again handing over back to UiPath in order to do the respective postings in Oracle here in another instance of Oracle. And that's our global duty ERP system. And by that allows us, hopefully, with the collaboration of the process owners, to really scale that further, really scale that globally. And yeah, that hopefully also prepares us a little bit for a potential Brexit. I still personally don't hope that this is coming, but yeah, I'm not the right person to discuss it.
Let's see, we're prepared. Yeah, but that was actually like our first Bizagi project, really. And we had, I don't know if you did that on purpose, but Stefan, we had like the full end-to-end like complexity, really. I mean, we had a custom connector, like not the basic, but the expert. We had various system integrations. We're like the first users of the UiPath connector. Yeah, quite a few shapes, you saw that. So it was actually good because we learned a lot. We had somebody from Bizagi Professional Services, obviously, to support us. Yeah, journey continues.
Yeah, and I think also Bizagi learned with us, how to integrate, with RPA, and we further shaped that module. Yeah, it's a very good collaboration, I have to say. Yeah, that's really the start. As said, we have also worked now in the real estate business on some business processes. Timo is working in the procurement area on vendor creation. Also a very interesting one because, as mentioned, here we are leveraging the B2B integration to really ask our vendors to type in their master data, that we get it straight into our network, and then we further distribute the data into all the ERP and purchasing instances.
So that also vice Bizagi themselves. So let's see.
Yeah. Then many thanks.
Thanks.